My name is Erica Barham, and I was diagnosed with autism. Welcome back to Always Something. This vlog is a little bit out of order, but I do have plenty of vlogs coming that'll catch you all right up. In the meantime, I wanted to bring you all to coastal Texas. This is where I currently am living and I love it. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So this video is a little bit out of order, but I wanted to have a video a little bit more in real time to share with you what I'm currently dealing with. I had been having some problems with my memory for a while, so I went and saw a neurologist. He had me do a bunch of labs, and then he sent me to a testing center where I did a series of memory tests. Also had me do an MRI of the brain. This MRI was very, very loud. They give you headphones to try and drown out the sound, and then they ask you what kind of music you want to listen to try and help. But in the end, it's still very, very loud. So the metal coils vibrating and banging together inside the machine are what create a very strong magnetic field. Since the scanner has a hollow inside, these sounds echo and become louder. It basically sounds like a freight train. But I want you to be completely still, and this is hard when you have sensory problems. I thought I had sensory problems from my fibromyalgia. It turns out that this would later be determined to be from my autism. So I used visualization techniques in order to try and stay calm and still. After months with the neurologist, it was determined that my memory loss was caused by situational anxiety and a history of being on lots of medicines from my autoimmune disease and vasculitis, as well as brain fog from fibromyalgia. I've been experiencing lots of dizziness, wooziness, and nausea, so I had a primary care visit follow-up with my doctor yesterday. She went over all of my medications and we discussed what was going on. It's been a long road trying to figure out what's been going on. I didn't really know what was going on. I thought it was all kinds of things, and we finally figured out it was one of my medications I've been taking for my fibromyalgia, making me feel this way. So I actually missed a dose of it a few times, and I was having withdrawal symptoms, which led me here. So yesterday I picked up a prescription for it at my local pharmacy to taper off. And so listen to your body, and sometimes you realize a prescription's not working out and the side effects are not worth the benefits. So here we are today, and I'm on day 2 of the taper off of this medicine. She went over the withdrawal side effects with me at the appointment, so I knew that there were going to be some. And day 1 of the taper yesterday was going pretty good. Here at day 2, I am experiencing some dizziness, wooziness, and nausea. So I was prescribed some Zofran. Let's see, I guess the generic is called Dancetron. I don't know if I said that right. But anyway, I'm gonna try and take some of this, see if that helps for the nausea. I took a lot of this during my chemotherapy and it worked wonders. So this is definitely a drug I would recommend taking for nausea. I am very confident it's gonna help me feel better today, and I will check back in with you during more of the taper and let you know how I'm doing. It is day 3 of my taper. I just got out of an appointment, which is why I'm in the car. It has been a long day. I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning because I was feeling nauseous and dizzy, and I had to end up taking another one of those Zofran pills for my nausea. I am trying to hold off and take another pill tomorrow if I need it. I'm hoping I will not, but I'm doing okay. I was able to go back to sleep for a little while, I think until about 9 o'clock. And it did work for the nausea, so I'm very grateful for that. I wasn't able to really say much about it yesterday because I was just feeling a lot worse yesterday. But okay, so I'm doing a 3-week taper. This is the biggest taper this first week. I started on 60 milligrams and now I'm down to 40, and then it'll be 30 and then 20 and then done. So it'll be a week of the 40, a week of the 30, a week of the 20, and then I'll be finished. Now when I'm actually finished and I go from the 20 to being done, that could be a rough week also. I don't know if I'm going to have some pretty bad withdrawal symptoms then too, so I guess I'll just have to wait and see. But fingers crossed, and hopefully it'll not be too bad. Tomorrow I'm officially at 1 week of my taper, so I made it this far. That means I will be stepping down from the 30 milligrams to the 20 milligrams of my taper. And so hopefully that jump won't be quite as bad as this one was. I did wake up at 5 in the morning the past couple of mornings, including this morning, because I was feeling nauseous. I haven't taken the Zolfran the past couple of mornings. I was hoping to just tough through it, and hopefully I won't continue to need it, but it is there if I do. I did not today, but I did end up having some tingling and kind of like pins and needles in my feet, I think yesterday. I don't know if that was related to the taper. I'm assuming it is, because that's not a normal thing for me. I don't know if it was just because I was on my feet a little extra or what that was, but it did go away. It wasn't anything major. It was just a little bit. So I'd have to look up and see if that is a withdrawal symptom. I'm not really sure exactly all of the symptoms. I don't have them memorized, but it's just something I just kind of took a little note of. Today I seem to be struggling with the nausea and dizziness a little bit harder, but I'm also trying to get a little bit more done than I normally do on a regular day, so that could be part of it. So give yourself some grace if you're trying to do a taper and you have a little bit more active of the day. It might be easier to try and do your first week of a taper if you have a little bit less busy of a schedule, but if you don't, then it might be easier to do the taper if you have a less busy of a schedule, but if you don't, just bear with the process. Know it'll get easier as the time goes on, and just keep a positive mindset. Those are all the things I'm trying to do. Try and drink extra water, another thing I'm trying to do, and just if you are having a little bit harder of a time like I am, just know it'll get easier as the days go on. Keep a positive mindset and try and keep hydrated. Those are all the things I'm trying to do. I just started the first day of my 20 milligram taper. I'm so excited to be on my last week. Yes. So this is what I've learned so far during my taper off process of the duloxetine. I'm finally on my 20 milligrams. Yes. My first observation is kind of like when I was on my chemotherapy. So the very first days are definitely the roughest of the days. And that makes sense because your body's adjusting to tapering off. And so you're just on that new dose and you're not used to it. So that's when I had the most trouble with it. The very beginning is when I had the wooziness, dizziness, and nausea. So that Zolfran really came in handy, and I seemed to have to take it the most during those first couple of days. And then my next observation was to try and take the medication at the same time every day. Now that's a common thing with medications, but it's especially important, I found, when tapering off as well, because there was a day here on the last step down where I wasn't able to take the medication at the same time. It was when I was at the Mayo Clinic actually, and I was doing a fasting lab. Totally messed up everything, and boy was I woozy, dizzy, nauseous, all of the above. And I had to wait until I could get some food in me, take that Zolfran and all of that jazz in order to start feeling better. And it worked, it was good. In fact, that was actually towards the end of the week, and it definitely messed up the schedule. But so glad to have the Zolfran, was able to get more regulated. It is windy out here today. Anyway, but yeah, I was able to get back on schedule, and I was happy to have it. But yeah, that was when I was at Mayo Clinic and I was doing the fasting labs, and I had the Zofran, was able to take it, eat some food. It took a while for it to filter in my system, make me feel better. Once it did, I was doing a lot better, and I was back on track. So keep that in mind when you are planning to taper off a medication. You might want to plan for those beginning days. And if for some reason there is something that's going to interrupt your schedule, like for me with the fasting labs, definitely account for that. I will check back in at the very end of this last week and let you know how it all wraps up. Thanks for sticking with me. Talk to you soon. I don't know what happened to the footage of the final taper. I just know that I had a really hard time with it. Going from 20 milligrams to nothing was incredibly difficult. It was just as hard as the very first taper, if not worse. My body was just in a lot of distress, and it was a tough, tough week. In fact, I think it went on for maybe 2 weeks. I don't know if it's something with being immunocompromised or just the whole process, but it was a hard, hard time. If you've never ever had a mental health assessment done, it might be a good idea just to give yourself some personal knowledge as far as what things you're having a hard time with and where you might need some help. Mental health can be severely overlooked because physical health problems can definitely dominate our time, but mental health is just as important because our physical health greatly depends on our mental health. Although it can be scary to really dive into your mental health, I think this is something that's really important to do as a form of self-care and self-growth. If each of us could take some time to really work on our mental health as well as our physical health, I think we would all be better for it. I'm all finished with the testing. Yeah, that part of it is done. So when I walked in, it was just a bunch of assessments on a laptop, and those assessments took a big chunk of the time. And then after that, I went and I met with a person, and they did some more assessments, lots of assessments today. So my best advice is to just be as honest as possible. You're not going to get out of it what you want out of it if you're not completely honest. And it is, a therapist's office, so it's very confidential. So you're only here to help yourself. The best way to help yourself is to have full disclosure. So some of the questions are a little bit uncomfortable, but that's what it's here for. They want to help you. The best way they can help you is to ask you those hard questions. Now, some of these questions were very black and white, and it kind of felt like, yeah, there's some gray there. So how am I going to answer a black and white question where you feel like there's some gray? Luckily, with some of these questions, there was a comment section at the bottom where you could kind of fill in a little bit down there and be like, well, but for not all of them was that little comment section. There was no wiggle room. So for those, I always feel like go with your first instinct. Don't overthink it. Just whatever your first instinct is probably going to be where you're leaning towards. So if you think too much into it, then you're just going to overthink it to death, and then it's probably not going to be natural. And so your natural instinct is going to be probably the best way to go. So you fill out those assessments, you meet with somebody, they've got some more questions, and then they process all that information. It takes a couple weeks. I think I mentioned that earlier. And then after that, they go over the results, and then you know kind of where you sit. So we'll know in a couple of weeks where I sit. All right, let's do a really quick recap. So I did some psychological testing, and I had to reschedule a follow-up visit, and then I got sick. So the follow-up visit had to get rescheduled, and my follow-up visit had to be in person. Well, my follow-up visit was rescheduled for next week, but we're supposed to have some tropical depression. It's not just a little storm. And so that'll be interesting on its own. But anyway, so that's next week. And so I called this week to see if I could get in just a little bit sooner, just in case that appointment gets rescheduled. And I got lucky and I did get an appointment. And so that's today, but it's a virtual visit. So I don't know if I'm going to get the results of my psychological testing today. Fingers crossed. So we'll see. I'm a little bit anxious, but I'm hoping we'll see. Otherwise, I don't know what this visit's going to be. Maybe just like a pre-testing visit. I don't know. Either way, I'm really proud of myself for doing the psychological testing. If anybody is like me and they get this far along in the process, take some time to just be proud of yourself for making it this far. And I will let you know how it all goes and what we find out today. And that's as far as I know. So stay tuned. So when I got done with that appointment, I just kind of left you hanging. Sorry about that. I had a lot to process. So after that appointment, I just kind of had to take some time. I took the whole weekend to kind of just process everything. I had to discuss things and kind of talk to my family and figure it all out as far as where I was going to go from there. Now, I am set up with a therapist who is very versed in autism. She has family members who have it, and she's worked with special education. And so she's got a lot of experience in how to go forward and how to specifically help me. So I wasn't super upset when I heard about the diagnosis. It was more kind of like living in a fog, and finally the fog was lifted, because I don't feel like having the diagnosis really changed a whole lot for me. That's why I say it was kind of like living in a fog and the fog was lifted, because I'm still me. I've always been this way, so it doesn't really change a whole lot. What it does is it provides clarity, and I truly mean that, because it just shows me the things that I've always struggled with. Why have I had these struggles, and how can I learn to adapt, and how can I learn to work on these challenges, and what strategies now are there out there to help me. So clarity is good, and it's helpful, and it's a starting point. It's tools in order to grow.
I'm all finished up with testing. It was just Gotta take a deep breath after that. Another one. Take it off. Oops. No.
So it'll be a week of the 40, a week of the 20, and so it'll be a week of the 40, a week of the 30, a week of the 20, and then I'll be finished. Now when I'm actually finished and I go from the 20 to being done, that could be a rough week also. I don't know if I'm going to have some pretty bad withdrawal symptoms then too, so I guess I'll just have to wait and see. But fingers crossed, and hopefully it'll not be too bad. So it'll be a week of the 40, a week of the 30, a week of the... So it'll be a week of the 40, a week of the 30. Ooh.